Hi everyone, welcome to Cheltenham Chart episode 5. And in today's episode, I'm going to talk about the comment that prompted me to put up bet 1. And then I'm going to talk about the value in the markets, our podcasts affecting the prices on horses when they put horses up. Then I'll talk about last week's runners and one very contentious eye catcher, who was a winner. So getting straight on with it, Bruce Ferguson's comment prompted me to look at the Cheltenham winners and how they'd fared first time out this season. And the handicap winners were always likely to have had a mixed bag of results, but it was the graded races where I thought the results were quite amazing until I looked into it further. Now, only 3 of the graded winners had 1 out of 9 who'd run. And that included Chantry House at 2-9, the 2-horse race, and Bob Bollinger, who's the next coming. Supposedly we'll get onto him later in the show. So why was I going to put this bet up on Tell Me Something Girl? Well, I looked into how she'd run last season. I looked at her run at Cheltenham, and it prompted me to think that, well, her season was just about the Mayor's Novice Hurdle. And that's what prompted me to think, well, Manila Indo was all about the Gold Cup. I mean, he'd fallen, then he'd had that prep run where he looked like he was just getting his confidence back after the fall. Now, Florine Porter had a good season, and Colixlos had a good season, but I still feel that Florine Porter this season is going to be all about winning the Stairs Hurdle and the bigger races than the race where he fell. And also, I didn't ever think that Colixlos was that brilliant a winner of the Triumph, although the form is starting to stack up with Adagio running well and Zana here coming second in the Morgiana. So that was the reason, and it's good to get interaction like that. And so I'm going to make a comment now which I want you to talk about, and we can maybe talk about further. The value in the markets is being squeezed, and that's before anybody talks about a horse on a podcast. But much as I love Appignanti, and I absolutely think it's one of the first shows that I watch each week, but the bookmakers are taking advantage of the fact that these guys are putting horses up and then just ripping the price on them. And it is slightly disappointing when you consider that they're sponsored by a bookmaker, that the prices on the horses they put up are absolutely slashed. You look at American Mike, 11-2 into 4-1, Phil Dore, 10-1 into 7s, the Boss's Oscar, 16-1 into 12-1. Just because these tipsters on a bookmaker sponsored podcast are putting horses up and then they're being slashed. And it does prompt me, because I think bookmakers are parasites, and I feel that they'll do anything to be able to cut prices. And like, what is to stop them just saying, this is the horse we want you to put up this week? I mean, these horses have been cut to ridiculous prices, and they've not run, they've not done anything. They've just been put up by a good tipster. Now, I know that Hugh Taylor moves the markets, but let's be honest, David Jennings made a slight profit last year on Appignanti, and Gavin Lynch made a loss, and yet they're using it as an excuse to slash anything that they put up on the show. So, what do you think of that? Because it is a talking point. American Mike is available at 11-2. A bookmaker-sponsored podcast goes up, and that horse is 4-1. So the Panther's got no chance. How do you feel about that? So that's the first part of the show, the first talking point, and I'll get on to last week's runners now. I hope I'll cover all the horses from last week that you'd like me to cover, but it's purely my view on the horses and what I saw on them. Lost in Translation is a horse that I liked 2 seasons ago, enough to put him up as a bet in the Gold Cup at 10-1. He ran a really good race for us in the Gold Cup, but I always felt he didn't quite stay. And now I'm seeing him cut for the Gold Cup, I'm wondering, I don't think he'll ever stay up the hill well enough to win a Gold Cup. Could he win a Ryanair? He may well be good enough to contest it. Whether he could win is another story. For me, Lost in Translation's possibly just a little bit short in both divisions. Short of speed in the 2 mile 4 division and short of stamina in the Gold Cap division. Baz won really well, but this was a bit of a speed test. Was it a real staying test over 2 mile 3? Now he's won nicely, but he's now priced shorter than the staying hurdle winner last season, Florian Porter, which means his price is a bit thin to be even thinking about a bet. He's still to prove himself over 3 miles over hurdles. An odd reserve judgment. If you're on at a good price, you've probably done well. But is he a stairs hurdle winner? I think we need to see it over 3 miles first. Braveman's game was sensational. His jumping was brilliant. Now Itchy Feet's jumping was not brilliant in second, but he was very good, Braveman's game. He is a novice and he's beating really proven grade sort of 2 horses in Fusel Raffles and Itchy Feet. But he's getting good experience and I liked him. He was very good. I wouldn't place an anti-post bet on him because I'm still not convinced that he'll go to Cheltenham Festival in 2022. I think he may avoid the festival, go to Aintree and then come back for one big tilt at the Gold Cap. Why do I say that? Well, I don't think Nichols has forgotten quickly that top of the game was finished after his win in the RSA, and I just wonder. It certainly wouldn't be an anti-post bet for me, although the horse was extremely impressive at the weekend. Another horse who was absolutely sensational was a Plutard. He blew away a field which fell to bits, to be fair, and at 3-1 for the Gold Cap, as impressive as he was, I would rather take 6-1 Manoa Indo, is my opinion. If it was 6-1 the pair, I would still take Manoa Indo. I think Manoa Indo should still be the favourite for the Gold Cap because I think Manoa Indo's race is going to be in March, and what he does in the lead up, similar to last season, is going to be irrelevant. It's all going to be about the Gold Cap. A Plutard was sensational, like I say, in the race on Saturday, but I'm trying to talk about the Gold Cap in March, and I would rather have Manoa Indo. Bob Bollinger's a huge talking point, and I'm going to get a lot of stick for my view. I wasn't as impressed as everyone. Look, the engine's there. He's got an incredible engine, but as for his jumping technique, I saw 3 jumps in there that I was not especially enamoured with, especially at his back end, and I thought his jumping at a faster pace at the third last than the last was not brilliant. Now it could be that his class is going to carry him through, but he's 2-1. He's 2-1 to win the Marsh, and at 2-1 you have to be picky and you have to be seen absolutely flawless, because Envoy Allen was flawless last year and he got beaten in the Marsh, and I know there was circumstances to that, but if I'm going to back a 2-1 shot for the Marsh, I'd want to see better jumps than the jump at the third last and the last. For me, his back end up under sort of like a little bit of pace wasn't quite right, and I'd prefer to just watch. I'm not putting up a bet against him, but I wasn't as impressed as everybody else with the horse. And I'm going to get a lot of stick for that when I put up my eye catcher, but that's just my opinion. Now, when I'm giving my opinion, I'm giving it because of the price of the horse and what I've seen. And I thought Run Wild Fred was really impressive, but he's 5-1 for the National Hunt Chase after this race. Now, the National is being mentioned as a plan. I don't think you can have the National Hunt Chase at Cheltenham as a sort of lead up run. It's either all guns blazing for the National Hunt Chase and forget about the National for this season, or you go for the National. I don't think you can go National Hunt Chase over 3 mile 6 and 3 weeks later try and win the Grand National. I think it's got to be one or the other. 5-1 for the National Hunt Chase. That would be skinny, really, considering I know he's won really easily today, but is that really a good enough price to be backing him? I'm not convinced at 5-1 that Elliott might have something else, Mullins might have something better, and although he's a second season novice, I could leave the 5-1 alone. And finally, on to my eye catcher. And the eye catcher is going to be, I'm sure I'm going to get a bit of stick for this, and I don't know why I was so impressed, but I really was impressed with Hollow Games over the final 3 hurdles when the taps got turned on. Like I've said about Bob Bollinger's jumping over the final 3 fences where I wasn't entirely convinced, I was really convinced by Hollow Games because I thought when he was popping and just going at a slower pace, he wasn't that great. It was when the taps got turned on, when he needed good jumps, that he pulled it out. Now, this was not the greatest of races, and it was certainly not run to suit him. But when it came to needing good jumps, when it came to pulling it out the fire, he kept pulling out more, he quickened nicely, he dossed in front. And I just thought the 12-1 was a bit big for him. I had a few quid. Now, I'm not recommending a bet in the Albert Bartlett because I don't know if there's anyone got a worse record in the Albert Bartlett than I have. And I certainly won't be putting a bet up for this race on the videos. But I was impressed. And I know that I've talked about Ginto, and I know that loads of people on the videos have talked in the comment section about what do you want at 50-1, which is a huge price in the Mullins horse. But I was impressed. This was a graded race today. Hollow Games is still unbeaten. Now, I know it's not the norm for a sort of flashy, unbeaten type to win the Albert Bartlett, but I think he's got something, this horse. I was quite impressed with him today. I don't know why I was as impressed as I am, but I was quite impressed with Hollow Games, and I think 12-1 is too big, and that's with Ladbrokes, Corals and William Hill, so it probably won't last long. But I thought the 8-1 with most of the bookmakers was the right price. 6-1 was crazy, but that's typical Unibet. But I thought 8-1 was about the right price. I think 12 was a couple of points too big. So thanks for watching the video today. I hope you'll comment on the value in the markets or horses that you want to talk about. And I'll be back to you next week after the Royal Bond, Drinmore and Ladbrokes Trophy meeting. So thanks for watching today. And thanks for all the support so far. Bye for now.